Good evening, everybody. My name is Philip Orr, and some of you know me, many of you wouldn't know me, but I want to talk to you for a few minutes about what we're going to do tonight. I've been quite heavily involved over the last 2 years with Decorum Northern Ireland, and you'll see a little bit of information about it in your programme. And Decorum members, when we have our panel discussion, will come up and talk a bit as former serving members of the Ulster Defence Regiment about their experience, and maybe react a little bit off the play that we're going to do tonight, first of all. But when working with Decorum, I did several things. I did some oral history, listened to stories, and they were plentiful. Some of them very funny, some of them very sad, and all of them really important to the storytellers, and I really relished hearing them. I also did some creative writing classes, where a lot of the members felt it would really be quite a useful thing and a valuable thing to pass your story on, not into some book somewhere in the library necessarily, though that's also good, but just to pass on to your grandparents, or your grandchildren rather, and your great-grandchildren, stories of what you went through and what your experience was of service. I also feel that perhaps in some ways the stories of other people who were participants in the conflict has had a bit more coverage and a bit more depth given to it than this story. And perhaps this story needs told, and told from the hearts of the people who were involved in the Ulster Defence Regiment. So that's what tonight's about. You're going to see a 45 to 50-minute show. It's a one-man show, which you may not have seen before, but it's a very good way of doing drama, because you get to see what is going on in one person's life. It's a fictional account, but it's very influenced by some of the stories that I heard when I was working with Decorum. So we're going to make a start, and after the play, the discussion happens. Thank you.
I say a little prayer for you. I'll come in my hand now. Wondering what dress to wear now. I say a little prayer for you. I will stay in my heart, and I will love you forever. And I never, never want to love you. Again, it's how it was made to live. And that's gonna make me heartbreak for me.
For 24 years, I've been writing to a fella I've never even met. At the beginning, I sent him press, clippings, photographs, and he never wrote back. Sometimes wondered if he was alive to read the letters. And then today, this arrived. It's from a woman he knew well. And she's writing to me, wanting to meet. It's very specific. It has to be. I've never laid eyes on this woman. Rendezvous in a cafe. Sit by the window near the door. There's a bus in about an hour. Adam, I don't know if I'll say anything new to her that I haven't already written to him. Oh, I know what I'd like to do to him. You might think it's a bit brutal, but it's no more brutal than what he did to us all those years ago. I told no one about this possible meeting. All my friends, they say, don't go pestering ex-IRA. You never know whether he or she is still committed. They had friends for whom the war's not over. Once a Brit, always a Brit. So, if I go to this meeting and I don't come back, I'm going to leave a record to let you see what it was like for me and my boy. It seemed not long ago that he started his training with the Royal Irish. Ballykindler. He was 18. was out of the UDR about 6 years. John was always a storyteller. He loved telling me stories about the old codgers they'd bring in just to train up the recruits. Right, you lot. You may not understand my accent. I've been a squatter here since 1969 and married a Bangor girl. We had sprogs. I may not be Ulster born, but I'm certainly Ulster soda bred. Now then, take a look at your ammunition. You'll need it on the range today. And always wear these. Remember, a deaf soldier is a dead soldier. There are 4 rules to follow with marksmanship. 1. Position and hold should be firm enough to support the weapon. 2. Point the weapon at the target without undue physical effort. 3. Sight picture, sight alignment must be correct. 4. Release the shot with a follow through so that you don't disturb the position. Now let's try that for real, shall we? You ever thought of going to the optician's private? That was our John. They apologised, like a schoolboy not handing his homework in on time. You apologise, Private? We are men here, not boys, and we toughen you up. We get professional. We take the game to the gunmen. So this weekend, you will all learn to shoot straight. And remember, your weapon is your friend. It's your partner. And it will stand by you better than any woman if you treat it right. Five weeks previous to that, testimonials all done and dusted. Our John went up to the base and Lattice Drive to take the oath. Well, I made sure he was word perfect. I swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. I will, as in duty bound, honestly and faithfully defend Her Majesty against all enemies. I will observe and obey all orders of Her Majesty and of all officers set over me. He read it like a right little Shakespeare. I told him though, the army will soon knock the swank out of that one. And then of course, a few days later he gets the lecture, the important lecture, the transition lecture, about how the Ulster Defence Regiment was transitioning to the Royal Irish. Well, they kept the badge. After all, we're all Irish soldiers with a glorious military history. And you know why the Harp is surmounted by the crown? Well, you see, the Royal Irish, like the UDR before them, they had a job to do. To uphold the honour and rule of sovereign on this island. And nothing was to be done to besmirch that honour or threaten that rule. Maintain the lustre of your badge at all times. That took me back. When I was in the regiment, we used to put black boot polish in our badges so we didn't shine in the moonlight. Our John, in the end, he served 18 months. Night duties, part-time. The rest of the time he's in the day job, helping me in the shop. I still tell myself to this day it was worth it. Worth it. But people weren't being murdered in the streets anymore. Worth it to give peace to the next generation. And that boy put his life on the line to beat the gunman into submission. And that's why I wrote to the man who killed my boy, to ask him the hard questions. How well did you know my John? Do you have a family of your own? Do you sleep? Do you regret what you did? Why did you kill my boy? And I didn't want none of your non-answers, none of your 5,000 years of colonial oppression. oppression or 50 years of unionist misrule. I wanted the truth. And I didn't get the truth. I wanted to meet the man who come down to the breakfast table of a morning, apart from the guys eating the fry. But Dad, I felt proud. Proud to be part of the Royal Irish, protecting the city. He told me that he had tried talking to the guys he was with, the soldiers who'd been in the regiment from the start. He wanted to talk about the past. He soon discovered they don't talk. At least, not to him. And one night he asks me, "Dad, who do you talk to? There must have been some awful things. Can you not share some stories with me?" The only thing I could share, and I didn't, were the nightmares. There was one nightmare kept coming back. It's hard to explain. It's as if I was hardwired into John's head. I could hear every word he was saying. And in the nightmare, John was always in trouble. Hey, John. John, I'm here in ambulance, son. Is everything okay, John? No, stay down. You're safe when you're down, John. I see. No, you'll be safe if you play it by the book. Now, what time is it, John? Write it down. Where are you? Record the location. John, don't get up, son. No. Is anyone hurt? Note the cause and the extent of the injury. Yes. John, I think I'm losing you a wee bit. John, don't get up. No, don't get up. For God's sake, don't get up, John! Everyone deals with nightmares in a different way. For some, the drink comes too easy. John liked to drink, like any young lad. One morning at breakfast, I taught him reaching for a beer, and I said, "Son, be careful. Drink's a poor master." And it's true. See, for soldiers, drink is dangerous. And then a year later, he took up with his mates from school. They'd gone to Queen's. He had his mates in the Royal Irish, but I think with Johnny, he felt as if he had left something behind at school. He took every opportunity to catch up with his mates. I can see him here in this kitchen now, getting ready to go out. Here, Dad, I'm heading up to Queen's. There's a disco. Is that student? I live in the University of Life, Dad. I'm going to graduate with honours. So I told him, leave your military ID at home. And he told me he was going to leave his weapon at home. Oh, and he wasn't going to tell anyone that he worked for the civil service. He thought that was too obvious. Do you know what I found out he was telling those university girls? He was saying, "I'm going to university next year, but for the time being, I've got myself a job. I'm a sales rep." What was he selling? Chocolate. John, the storyteller. He promised this wee uni girl a big box of Crawley Street because he had a fantastic job with Roundtrees. Except, you see, Roundtrees don't make Crawley Street. It's Nestle. How he got out of that one, I'll never know. You see, when he got back, I would always sit him down, because that's what parents do. And I would ask him who he was with. One night he told me he had met this fella at the party. The conversation came on to parents, and how they influence you for good or for bad. But then this fella started asking questions about me, and about Bridget, and about Sophie. I said, John, who is this fella? Where's he from? Ah, relax, Daddy, I'd say. Drink was taken, it's all fine. No, John. What do you remember about this boy? Oh, nothing, apart from one of his eyes was really badly messed up, and I thought, you know, he'd be useless on the rifle range. He couldn't hit anything. He was thinking like a soldier. See, when you think like a soldier, you act like a soldier. Before long, somebody will notice. They say soldiering is in the blood. I mean, what kind of saying is that? It's what happens to us that makes us who we are. I remember John's 14th birthday. I remember it well because that's when Bridget and Sophie left. It was exam time. I didn't want John throwing the head up, so I took him to his favourite cafe. We sat in his favourite alcove, down to our favourite meal. When a bomb blast down the street. The cafe window was gone. You're right, John. There was a woman over there with a bad gash in her head. John didn't panic. He went over, lifted up a napkin and started mopping the blood off this poor woman's face. 14 years old. Can you believe that? Amazing what you notice in chaos. Milkshakes all over the floor. Fish and chips everywhere. Dust. Dust everywhere. Walking down the street, John was laughing because our hair was the same colour of grey. When we got home, we heard on the TV that a man walking his dog was killed in a bomb blast. The next day, John said to me, when I'm old enough, Dad, I'm going to join the regiment. That's the sort of detail I put in my endless letters to let this man know what sort of boy he destroyed. It's the things that happen to us who make us the way we are. In this country, the soldier has to grow a second skin. You see, if you see an unused baton around on the floor, don't pick it up. It could be full of explosives. It'll be the last thing you do. And if you want to go to the restaurant, choose it with care, and when you get there, reverse into the car parking space for a quick getaway. And when you get into the restaurant, sit with your back against the wall, your weapon handy, and always be aware of your surroundings. And after your meal, when you go back to the car, turn off the inside light. It makes you a target. When you get home, close the curtains before you put the house lights on. When your uniform is being washed, it has to be hung out. Put it inside a sheet first, then hang it up. Always take a varied route to work. Always keep a map in your head of the safe and the unsafe places. It could save your life.
Right.
That's where I let John have his first beer. We drank too much in those days. Everyone did. And the army knew it. They'd send us out leaflets, stress packs. Take a well-earned holiday. Costa del Cure, me and my mates used to call it. And it was a temporary cure. Me and Bridget be away from each other for a couple of weeks. I remember that holiday. It's the time I forgot to leave my weapon at home. I arrived up at the airport in the check-in. You should have seen the wee girl's face when I said, "Here, love, would you check that in?" Airport security had me in a half Nelson for half an hour. The flight was delayed for an hour and a half. Well, I persuaded them I wasn't a terrorist. You see, when I got on board, me and John, we just laughed. I should have enjoyed that holiday more, but I spent the whole 2 weeks avoiding a particular family. They spent all their time sitting in the pub singing songs. Armoured cars and tanks and guns came to take away our sons. Every man should stand behind the man behind the wire. Aye, right. And the morning before we left, I was in the hotel toilet doing my business. And the father of that family, he came in, stood behind me, at my shoulder. And he leant forward. He whispered in my ear, "Will you be training the wee lad to be doing more than just minding the shop then?" Costa del Cure. John was always going to go full time. He was offered 2 weeks training on the border. His biggest fear, "Dear Dad, would you be able to survive in the shop without me for 2 weeks?" Him going to South Armagh on his family's own doorstep. I'd half guessed the result. Thing is, we went full time, I'd have to close the shop, but part of me was proud. And sure, everything comes to an end, doesn't it? One day. I asked him about university. He said, "Oh, that dream, Dad." Aye. I thought about it, but thought, nah. But I'll keep in with my mates. You see, when I get back from this 2 weeks training, I'll nip over and see them on my motorbike. Coldest November I can remember. Well, John kept in contact as best he could from Bestbrook Mill. I was worried he'd bump into his other family, but then I was worried about culvert bombs and booby traps. I needn't have been. See, when I got back, he sat in that chair, cocky as you like, and he told me he was a veteran. Let me tell you something that was drilled into me. You see, in the border, there are no veterans, only novices, every time. They tell me of the nights they'd spend on Fathom Mountain, listening to the wind, waiting for the chopper to arrive the next day with food supplies. And in the morning, he'd waken up to one of the most beautiful views in Ireland, the Gap of the North. Legends, battles. See, the countryside got to him like it did to me. It would make a grown man want to read Irish history. Before he got back, I'd already worked out the exact date when I took the closest shot. You see, turns out soldiering was in his blood after all, like it is with so many young men. Come the day, close the doors. Not only because he'd gone full time. You see, 2 nights after he arrived back, he did get on his motorbike. And he did go and visit his mates. I knew where he was going, I didn't challenge him. You see, with John, it was as if another life was calling him. Friends he didn't want to lose. Parties he didn't want to miss. Girls he was too scared to talk to, but he still wanted to know. Of course, that weekend someone else was heading up to Queens with one thought on his mind.
This is the 8 o'clock news. Police have confirmed that a young man was killed in Belfast in the early hours of this morning when an explosive device was thrown at his motorbike. No details of his identity have been released until relatives are informed. It is understood that he was about to make his way back home shortly after midnight from a party in the University District. He is understood to have died at the scene. A man was arrested close by and is being held in custody.
At the funeral, we carried John's coffin. It was draped in the Union flag, had his berry and his service medal. And Bridget and Sophie and me, we met and we mourned and cried together. It didn't seem real. It's as if it was someone else's nightmare, someone else's story. But it was my story. Bridget, she went over to England with her new man, took Sophie and the twins with her. You see, turns out he was English. He was a sales rep. He couldn't write this stuff. Sophie's a good girl. She visits. She lives in London. Married a doctor. She trained to be a doctor too. 3 nice kids. Dear sir, I was at university in Belfast many years ago. I often danced with your John. He was always the actor, always making stories up. Everyone thought he was a soldier, though he didn't say. The man who killed your son was my brother. None of our family knew he was in the IRA. And when we found out, he nearly killed my parents. When he was a teenager, he stayed with cousins in Belfast and took part in a riot. He was shot in the face with a plastic bullet. Took one of his eyes out. He was a different person after that. My brother died 3 weeks ago. He had cancer. Do you want to meet? I'll understand if you don't.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for watching and listening. We're going to bring up three folk that I mentioned earlier in the play. And thereafter, Brian will stay on stage as well. And I just want to have a wee conversation with them. Okay? When you attempt to play about real life situations and ones that are full of controversy in a post-conflict society, it's very important to acknowledge that you've got your stories from real life. They didn't just come up out of your head as an author, but they're in the heart of life. So what I want to do is introduce you to three folk here. First of all, I'd just like you to tell us your name. I know you've got a bit of a throat problem today, Deborah, but...
Apologies, I'm Deborah Hoyt.
I'm Mitch Breslin.
And Brian is our actor here. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm Philip. Each one of you would have spent some time in this organisation, the Ulster Defence Regiment. Can you just tell us a little bit, did you feel that anything in the play that struck you as being true to your experience of having been in that organisation?
Very, very much so. The worry about people you were actually interacting with was very worrying. You were constantly stressing about which side they were from, where you were going, the security aspect of it.
A constant concern.
Yeah.
Victor?
Yes, I had a wife and four kids. I had my own PPW,
What's that now?
protection weapon, plus at all times I had my army weapon on with me, a rifle, which I had to take part in hide. So everybody come from the time they got the rifle, on 12 nights long ago.
Right.
But it's very true to life because how you work with guys, as a platoon sergeant, I had to go to the town.
Just explain that. Who had you to go to, Victor?
A person was injured within my own platoon,
Yeah.
and I had to actually drive his family to see him in the hospital in Belfast. And when you walk into that place, and the man in the next bed to him, I'll always remember, lying with two stumps, and his wee girl sitting between his knees, and his wee girl was nearly the same age as mine. And it'll be with me for the rest of my days. Over a period of time, my wife just got fed up with it, and went back to marriage as well. But look at that, I'm married again now, I have a lovely wife. And I have 3 kids, I have 7 kids now. All mine.
So,
But it's very, very true to life when if you think about it. Or manage to tell me how sad, when you get your own, you lost your friends. I'm 72 years of age, and I have a very small catchment of friends because you don't know who's still today, and I'm out 20 years now, who you can trust. You watch where you go, but I would love it all over again. I enjoyed every single one of it.
Spider.
It's just without everything, I enjoyed it. And if it was to go again tomorrow, it's at my age, I would still join. We fight for my country, which I love.
Mitch, what's your perspective on the play?
I thought the play was very, very true to life, and some of it may be a bit condensed for the one person, but all those things I can identify with every one of them. When I went to school, I originally come from up in Strabane. Back in 1972 I was in school, and I remember the dark Greek days. I was your age, a bit younger at the time perhaps, but every morning at assembly we were all taken in, usually in the morning, to tell who was killed the night before, and that was always, well, usually always somebody you knew. If somebody was in the class and was taken away, but it was just an everyday occurrence. It was a very black time. I remember the school teacher, and he was serving in the EDR at the time. He was about 73, and he took us into the work. He was a woodwork teacher, and I remember him locking the door and taking out his personal weapons, showing all the class how to strip it down, how to clean it, and all this sort of thing. And then he was going off home at night to go out on duty again. So those things, the play was very real. At the end of the play, you heard there where the guy who actually did the killing had a reason to do it. But in fact, many times, the killers never had any reason to do it. There was never, I mean, it was said that because he was shot with a rubber bullet or whatever. But from my experience, a lot of people were killing for the sake of killing. And where I came along the border area, it was really very ruthless, and it was neighbours killing neighbours, and it was very much sectarian, very sectarian. In the country, it was so much different from in the city of Belfast. Different threats, different things happened, but it was all totally ruthless. I mean, the reason I ended up Bangor was because I was intimidated. I was just left school in '74, so I was intimidated with the apprenticeship I was doing, so I had to move at the time, and what they reckoned at that stage was a safe place for me to go was to Ballymena. So I moved to Ballymena, and then from Ballymena I moved on. I just got a job after a certain time, moved to Larne at that stage. I had 3 brothers in serving in the UDR at the time up in Strabane, so it was considered safer for me to move. But I joined the UDR in 1976, so I served 1.5 years in the Ulster Defence Regiment, and then after the 18 months and after I served my time, I left the job I was in and joined full time. So then I finished 24 years.
Thank you, Mitch.
We'll get an opportunity, shortly to ask questions, to comment, to query anything absolutely you want to, because it's a discussion. I would like to turn to Brian, though, who is the actor. So you couldn't tell us a little bit about what it was like to portray so many characters in a way?
Well, to me, obviously, they're the 2 characters primarily. It's John Senior, John Junior, and in my head, I'm still John Junior, but it's nice just because of the way I look now at this age, I could be John Senior. I found going with this particular script, it's very easy and very quick to get under the skin of the whole thing because of the strong narrative. And as you start to unpack who the dad was, who the son was, there's a certain understanding between the 2 of them. The first time we performed this was in a very intimate venue, and there were about 25-30 people there, and it was so small, but it was very intense. You'd get away with whispers, get away with very direct comments, and when we take the play to this sort of venue, which is fantastic, and the numbers are increased, you take on a different style of approach to the script. It's much more father and son, whereas it was, I think the first evening it really was concentrating on the son and the pain of the loss and so on.
One of the things I hope you got from the play is that in our society there's a lot of talk about what is reconciliation. Even years later, is it possible for people to meet, having maybe been involved in conflict and involved in fact trying to kill one another, as happened in our society. So that was in a way what the theme of the play was, wasn't it? In a way that's how the play ended up, the letter. what should happen should he actually go and meet this person. So I'd like to know maybe a few thoughts about that very briefly, and then we'll finally come to you guys to hear if you have any comments to make.
Well, I would say yes, go and meet him. I think that's a brilliant idea. I have done cross-community work with people who were ex-IRA. And it's interesting to hear their view of what they were like whenever they were younger and what their thoughts are now. I also had to educate a lot of people. I've travelled up and down to the south a lot, so I found I didn't have an idea of they had a preconceived notion of what the Republican view was. They didn't hear the other side of the story. So I think it is important to hear both sides and the reconciliation. Unfortunately, yeah.
We'll let you go there. Hold your voices, holding up, Victor.
I found I lived in a country area, and there wasn't, we went into Belfast and all the rest of the troubles, but I found that at times I was in more danger from my own side, from both the UDF and the UDA, all my neighbours, and they give me a hard time. And I always remember being very stupid and as a young, I just joined the UR. I never realised I'm about in my uniform. And I went out in uniform and travelled. I walked to the railway station and got the train to Carrickfergus. The train was full. Everybody was looking at me and nobody said a word. But when I get into the training depot in Carrickfergus, as it was then, I was at your some meeting. For my uncle was the company commander then.
Directly to the letter, I work for Decorum, so we have almost 500 members there, and it's all police, army, prison service, and the families. The families, we would say, also served. They went through horrendous times, and we just feel that the stories that we really appreciate times like this, because at one stage we were starting, those who stood in the middle. We don't say the people. It's difficult sometimes. You say what side of the community you're on. We all say we weren't on either side of the community. We see ourselves a third community, so we don't sort of fit into the boxes, and we seem to get left behind a wee bit. So, as Philip said, we look at it that everybody is on a very personal journey. Everybody is on a reconciliation route, and you can never tell anybody who's not journey that they should be further ahead or they should be further back. So I have very different views from some of the other members, and we appreciate, and I think everyone has to be allowed to have their own views of where they are along that route. The letter, as I said previously, I personally would have met the sister of the guy who killed, because a lot of our membership would say, look, we're trying to move on. Our strapline is remember the past, building the future. So we do a lot of work with young people, and what we're saying is we don't want to forget what happened in the past, but we don't want to be living in the past, and we need to move on. So I would say yes, meet the person, but I would have real difficulty, and I have been in many situations where I've sat with IRA volunteers in particular, and I find it very difficult to I speak to them courteously, but I find it really difficult. I think that, as we refer to, if they've had baggage, we find it really difficult. However, the families of those people, I would see them in a different light. And as long as, like the sister, the one thing that is never, that we would say that we have never heard is anyone saying, okay, what we did, we shouldn't have killed anybody, it was wrong, however it's happened, can we move on? That would be a lot of healing amongst our community, but that has never happened, and that is a big sticking point on whenever you hear, and it's really difficult to watch somebody on TV saying, I would do it all again. That's on what we would see as a perpetrator side. It's really difficult to hear that, and I would just, I keep hearing it, and it's something that victims and survivors find very difficult when you hear people saying, why don't you just go up there and shake hands with the man and let's move on? It is really difficult, and it's something a victim never really wants to hear, is someone saying to them, oh, get over it, let's move on. That's 30 years ago. Some of these people are living today as it was back in the 1970s. And actually, a lady last night in the theatre down in Newton Ards, her husband was an Irish Guards man, and he was blown up across McLean. And she said that a part of the helicopter, she said that really, really affected her badly.
The sound of it.
The sound of it.
So we see just, in post-conflict world, in post-conflict society, so many stories, so many issues bubbling under the surface, even though the conflict officially may have come to an end a long time ago. And I hope you find what we sort of unveiled with this play is of some value to you. Any comments about or questions of any kind whatsoever would be welcome. If anybody would like to. Yeah.
This is for Brian.
Well, that,
Hi. How did working on your own compare to working with larger companies, or like not having anybody to bounce off, only having yourself? I mean, I know you did do multi-rolling, which was very good. It was fantastic, but like, how did you find basically portraying that story on your own?
it was certainly a challenge, there's no doubt about it. It's an awful lot of hard work, but in this case it was a collaborative effort with Philip. We sat down with the script and I was walking through the cases and so on, and together we were suggesting how someone might react in certain circumstances. I thoroughly enjoyed working on my own. I don't know if it's a personality thing, whether I just like my own company or whatever, but it's very demanding, and not one line leaves your lips, but you've got to think, what's the purpose of this line? Because nowhere to hide. You know, if there's a cast and someone forgets their line over there, if someone's got sense around them, they might be able to improv and get it on track again. But as you've seen from the narrative today, if the narrative goes in any other direction, it's not going to go anywhere. So in answer to your question, I found it very challenging, difficult, but very worthwhile.
Any other comments?
Hi. I just wanted to say I thought this performance was really eye-opening to me. I grew up over in Cyprus, so when I came back here it was kind of a shock for me, because I came into primary school and suddenly everyone was like, oh, are you Catholic or Protestant? I was like, I'm neither. And it was kind of eye-opening seeing the dangers and thoughts that went through your head, like how you were saying, sit to your back with your back to the wall, always know your exits, stuff like that. I just thought the performance as a whole was really, really intense and very, very interesting to someone like me coming into it.
Well, can I add to that? Those instructions that you saw me giving out about how to behave yourself as a member of the services, they weren't made up. This is what all comes from the research. That was your training. That was your list of things to do for the day. And then, of course, the one that we missed out was that every single day you had to check under your car. Every single day. And they even produced, if you felt that was embarrassing, they would suggest something like, tell your kid you're looking for bunnies under the car, and you wouldn't want to run over a bunny, would you? So the dad would be down doing press-ups in the morning looking under the car for explosive devices every single morning. And quite often, if you went to the Asda, you know, you'd be doing the same in the Asda car park, looking under your car. So
Grabbing your keys one more time.
yes, and that regime was just drilled into you. And that's why when I asked the lady after the first night, what was it like to walk away from the UDR? She said, you never leave the UDR. It's in your genes now. It's just part of the fabric of who you are.
maybe have one last comment maybe, or a couple more.
Is that even still why they say about leaving car lights indoors on? Because it says that you could be a target?
Yep. And if you, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you go for any kind of security training, this regime still exists today. It's not that they've thought up anything new. It's exactly what we'll be told today.
I still never use the interior light in the car.
Happens.
Yeah.
One more question there?
Hi, I mentioned before about the multi-ruling, but I was just wondering how, when playing each character, how you decided what kind of physicality you would use, what kind of like vocal tone you would use, you know, different aspects of each character, and how you really very impressively switched from each one, very clearly seeing which person it was. Just how you like chose to do that.
Well, this is where your education, your drama education, your drama training is going to kick in. It's all observation. If I said to you, stand up and give me a sergeant major, you'd all have different takes on it. If I said, stand up and give me a young buck who's heading out for the night, you'd have your take on it. But it's all observation. And as you go through your drama training, everything you see, people you meet, always try and log what it is that makes them the person that they are. And that's what you draw on. So when I'm reading the script and I see a particular personality, I'm thinking, now, where have I seen that guy before? Or that lady before? In some instances, and you try to draw on that.
Okay, thank you very much once again everybody for coming, and I hope you found that a worthwhile experience and a learning, both about the theatre, techniques involved as well, but just of the power of theatre to draw out stories. And there's 101 stories that could be drawn out from any place like where we live, and you've heard one of those stories today. Thank you so much.
Can I just say, at the Corner World in Billy Avenue, and we have an exhibition set up, no narrative, it's all the kit and equipment and uniforms of our members, and it's open private arrangement for groups. We bring a lot of groups in to see around, and individuals come in, so if you're ever interested in something like that, please get in touch.